After successfully redeeming the Yandere male lead, I said my goodbyes. I have to go now, I told him. You'll meet the heroine who's destined to love you. I wish you both a lifetime of happiness. Eric lowered his gaze, silent. Confused but resolute, I exited the world. The next day, I was sprawled across my bed, fully immersed in a round of Goose Guard, when a shriek tore through my mind. Male lead's corruption level has maxed out. Secondary redemption required. And just like that, I was hurled back into the pocket world. 10 years had passed. The once gentle prince was now a blood-soaked tyrant. I arrived just in time to see him wipe his dripping sword clean, a faint smile on his lips. Her face, he murmured. You think you're worthy of wearing it? When I rematerialized, I was still clutching my little pot of cake. I blinked at the architecture around me. Familiar, but off. The colors were dimmer, colder. How am I back here? Host, there has been an unforeseen complication with your previous mission. Your intervention is required. The system's voice made me sigh in relief. So it was just a glitch. A scary glitch, but still, a fixable one. I relaxed and dug into the cake pot. Creamy. Sweet. Heaven. It was white peach oolong, and I was in love. Might as well walk and snack. I headed toward Eric's old quarters, spoon in hand. If I was going to deal with his latest meltdown, he was at least going to try this cake. It was divine. He'd never tasted anything like it. Too medieval. I snapped the lid shut and ambled down the winding palace corridor. God, I was so close to winning that round of Goose Guard. This was all Eric's fault. Of all times to have a psychotic break, he picked the exact moment I was about to trap the last goose. Now the goose was free, and I was the one who got caught. I was furious. When I see him, he's getting one bite. A tiny bite. Then I'm eating the rest in front of him. Slowly. That'll teach him. But seriously, why did he snap? The system wasn't saying. I reached the palace wing where Eric and I had once lived. It was mostly deserted now, save for a few maids listlessly sweeping and dusting. In the courtyard, the apricot tree we'd planted together stood in full, glorious bloom. A breeze stirred its branches, white blossoms falling like snow, dusting my hair and shoulders. Then it hit me. When had the tree grown so large? Host, the flow of time in this world is different. 10 years have passed since your departure. 10 years. No wonder the place felt so cold and empty. Eric was probably long gone. I rushed to one of the maids, ready to ask where he was. But the moment she turned and saw my face, her eyes went wide with terror. Do you know? Before I could finish, she screamed. Assassin. Seize the assassin. What? Wait, I'm not. She wasn't listening. Dropping her broom, she lunged with surprising strength. During my last mission, I had technically been a maid too, but I never did a thing. I'd pawned everything off on Eric and spent my days goofing off. In reality, my noodle-armed, gym class-failing college body was no match for a palace made used to actual labor. Within seconds, I was pinned to the ground, still clutching my cake pot. I'm not an assassin, I squeaked. I'm here to find Eric. Can you please take me to him? Her eyes narrowed. You wish to see His Majesty? His Majesty? So, it was Eric. When I left, he was still the crown prince, the old king barely clinging to life. After 10 years, yeah, that tracked. My eyes lit up. Yes. I want to see His Majesty. She called over another maid. Together, they bound my hands and marched me away, grim and silent like sentinels. The journey was dreadfully boring. I tried to make small talk. So, how long has Eric been on the throne? The maid said nothing. Rude. According to the original plot, Eric was supposed to meet, fall in love with, and marry the general's daughter, becoming the Empire's most envied royal couple, model of love and duty. But then the pocket world glitched. His mother was executed in a witchcraft scandal, and the entire storyline veered off course. The bright, noble prince was forgotten by the world and embraced the darkness instead. That's when the system set me in, tasked with redeeming him before the corruption was complete. Mission accomplished. Plot restored. He was supposed to go on to meet his destined heroine and live a loving, fluffy life. I, meanwhile, was supposed to return to being a miserable college student, battling 5-8 a.m. lectures a week. A wave of sorrow swept over me. He gets a love story. I get overpriced textbooks and no sleep. I glanced down longingly at my cake. Just one bite would comfort me, but my hands were still tied. My tragedy knows no bounds. The maids remained stubbornly silent. When I lagged behind, they prodded me to hurry. Stop poking me. Did they not see how enormous this palace was? A frail, noodle-armed college girl could drop dead from this cardio. Just before I actually did drop dead, we finally arrived. The maids handed me off to someone new, a head maid, judging by her crisp uniform and commanding presence. Her gaze swept over me, lingering on my limbs, a flicker of disdain, and something else passing through her eyes. Well, she said, at least you came prepared. What? Only then did I remember what I was wearing. A soft, worn sleep dress with a built-in shelf bra. The comfiest thing for a midnight snack back home. Utter scandal in a world like this. I opened my mouth to explain, but before I could, she seized my chin. Now I'm 5 feet 6 inches, and she looked to be 5 feet 3 inches at best. Her attempt to manhandle me by the jaw was unintentionally hilarious. Still, I bent down slightly to help her out. Let it never be said I wasn't cooperative. I even blinked sweetly. See? I'm behaving. No need to tie me up again, thanks. She examined me with a sharper eye. Her temperament matches. His Majesty will be pleased this time. This time? Without another word, she moved behind me and cut the ropes from my wrists. Then, with a dramatic creak, the grand doors to the hall swung open. I was shoved inside. Though it was midday outside, the hall was cloaked in a suffocating gloom. I noticed the route we'd taken was unusually quiet, far from the palace's main wings. Now I saw why. The windows were all sealed with thick, black cloth. Only a faint sound echoed through the space. A woman sobbing. Even with the windows blocked, a phantom chill crept over my skin. I clutched my little cake pot and tiptoed forward, every instinct screaming that something was very wrong. The deeper I went, the louder the crying grew. I could make out the words now. Your Majesty, please. I can't eat another bite. Please, no more. Then came another sound, soft, rhythmic. Drip, drip, drip. I froze. I've read enough dark romance novels to recognize the red flags. A sobbing woman, the sound of liquid dripping. It could only mean one thing. My mind plunged straight into the gutter. Oh God, I'm so corrupted. But seriously, what was happening here? Had Eric gone so dark that he gave up on monogamy and started collecting women? I panicked. System. I screamed internally. System. I need an update. It took several heartbeats before it answered. That is not the case. Host, I cannot speak freely near the male lead. Proceed forward. The situation will explain itself. This world is on the verge of collapse. Only you can save it. Good luck. And then silence. No matter how hard I yelled mentally, the system was gone. I'm so screwed. I took a breath, forcing my heart to stop trying to burst through my ribs. Then I noticed something. The sobbing had stopped. Only the dripping remained. Drip, 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 like a leaky faucet. Only worse. I knew I should turn around. Hide. Run. But curiosity kills the cat, and I was apparently a very stupid cat. I crept forward and peeked around the final folding screen. At the center of the room, a single red candle burned. Before it sat a silver platter stacked with honey cakes. The surrounding walls were plastered with talismans, scrawled in arcane, unreadable script. Lying in front of the platter, at the 12 o'clock position, was a woman. Her mouth was stuffed full of cakes. Her throat had been slit. A steady stream of blood flowed from the wound, pooling at the candle's base. Drip, drip. When the blood touched the candle, the flame flared brighter. I forgot how to breathe. The scene before me was a nightmare, more horrifying than anything I'd seen in the worst horror films. And this time, there was no screen between me and the terror. The wind rustled the talismans. The thick, sickly scent of blood mixed with honey filled the room. I was going to be sick, but worse than the gore was the presence. Someone else was in the room, and they weren't in the chamber ahead. They were right behind me. I felt it before I saw it, the cold press of a blade against my neck. Its edge was slick, with blood. My eyes locked onto the reflection in the polished metal, my own pale, wide-eyed face. Then came a chuckle. Low, smooth, familiar. Warm breath ghosted against my ear. Caught you, little mouse. My entire body went rigid. The blood in my veins felt like it had frozen solid. I tried to speak, but only a single, strangled sound escaped. The words were trapped in my throat, or maybe there was simply nothing to say. I knew Eric was no saint. From the beginning, he'd never bothered to hide his malice. When the system first brought me into this world, I hadn't even had a body. It had to spend energy to create one for me. Because the plot had veered off course and the world was collapsing, the system's power was limited. So it whipped up a mini version of me using my data. I remember crouching beside a puddle, staring at my reflection. My face was chubby, round, utterly pinchable. I held up my hands. They were chubby and pinchable too. How old am I? I asked the system. 6 years old. Eric had been 7. I was 6. Close enough. All I had to do was stay by his side and steer him away from the path of darkness. Simple enough. Gazing at my reflection, I gave my cheek a squeeze. I was so cute. Who could possibly resist this level of adorable? Full of confidence, I ran to the desolate palace wing where Eric lived. I tried pushing open the main gate. Too heavy. I tried climbing the wall. Too tall. This was infuriating. Eventually, I found a crumbling hole in the wall and squeezed through. Panting, I dusted off the weeds and cobwebs clinging to my hair. Then I saw him. A pair of pitch-black eyes stared straight at me. Eric stood in the corner of the neglected courtyard, holding a shard of metal. Its edge glistened red. The smell of rust and blood mixed into something thick and metallic. At his feet lay the body of a maid. Her throat had been slashed open. Her head lolled unnaturally to one side, bloodshot eyes staring blankly toward the wall I'd crawled through. A jolt of raw terror shot through me. You killed her. Little Eric didn't flinch. He stepped forward and used the shard's tip to flick a strand of dry grass from beside my ear. He smiled. Another little mouse has arrived. Aya. Why is he the same as a kid and as an adult? The system was right. He really had gone full dark mode. He called me a mouse when he was a little psycho, and he's still calling me a mouse now that he's a big psycho. Fine. I'm a mouse person. Can a mouse person just go back to her sewer and live in peace? I don't want to do this redemption mission anymore. I want to go back to my 8 a.m. lectures. I'll never complain about them again. I swear. I screamed for the system in my head. Nothing. Nothing. That mouse system abandoned me. Did it scurry back to the sewer too? What do I do? What do I do? What do I? Eric's a real-life killer. This is an ancient empire. He's the emperor. I'm just some random woman who popped into his palace. Killing me would make perfect sense. I'm going to die. I'm going to die, and I'll never taste bubble tea again. Sob. While my mind spiraled, the man behind me moved, slowly, deliberately, circling until he stood in front of me. The sword at my throat didn't budge. If anything, it pressed even closer, skimming the base of my neck. I was terrified that the simple rise and fall of my breath would slice my throat open. He stood directly in front of me now. I didn't dare look down. I didn't dare look up. All I could see was the embroidered dragon on his black robes. The blade slid upward, resting beneath my chin. A sticky drop of blood trickled down the edge and vanished beneath the collar of my nightgown. I felt his gaze drift lower. And then, because my brain is hopelessly stupid, I suddenly recalled something I saw online. What tall people see when they look down at short people. My nightgown wasn't particularly low-cut, but I was, well endowed. C-cup. Respectable. He could probably see everything. I instinctively tried to cover my chest. A soft snort came from above. What's so funny? Even the dead deserve some dignity. He tilted my chin up with the sword. This was the first time I'd seen Eric after 10 years. His face hadn't changed drastically, just sharpened, matured. His aura was different, though. Restrained. Controlled. Dangerous. He looked down at me, his eyes gleaming with something I couldn't read. Who could possibly understand a 28-year-old man? I can't even understand guys my age in the modern world, let alone an ancient emperor with murder hobbies. I forced a smile. Hey, don't do anything rash. Don't let your hand shake. Don't let your hand shake. I slowly backed up. He didn't move. I reached up and carefully pushed the blade away from my throat. As the pressure lifted, I let out a shaky breath. Eric remained completely still. Is he broken? I asked cautiously. Do you remember me? I mean, when I left this world last time, I had trouble remembering who was in my friend list. I had to scroll through chat logs like a detective. 10 years had passed for him. 2. His gaze roamed over my face. His brow furrowed slightly, as if something was clicking into place. I pressed on. I'm Ava, your childhood friend. Remember? His hand reached out, cupping my cheek. His thumb slowly traced my skin, rough with calluses. It tickled. I didn't dare move. Then he spoke. 3 words. Childhood friend. I nodded eagerly. MHM. A whole decade of friendship. He let out a dry, mirthless laugh. I have no friends. What? That stings. That stings a lot. If I'm not even a friend, then I'm just a stranger. Or worse, a threat. I looked down, clutching my cake like it was my last hope of salvation. Well, this is it. Might as well eat my cake before I die. White peach. Not too sweet. Still delicious. I'd barely taken 2 bites before the cake was snatched from my hands. The man pinched my cheek. What are you crying for? I wiped at my face. I'm not crying. The tears fell faster. I'd completed the mission. The system promised I could go home. It lied. Now I'm about to die in a cold palace, and it won't even answer me. I miss my mom. My dad. What will they do when they realize I've disappeared? Eric bent down to meet my eyes. Through a watery blur, I felt his fingers grip my chin. What are you crying for? He repeated. I'm about to die, I snapped. Wouldn't you cry? He didn't answer right away. His voice, when it came, was low and deliberate. Who said you're going to die? My eyes flicked to the corpse on the floor. Then back to him. You're not going to kill me? His thumb brushed down my skin from my chin to my collarbone. His hand was hot, too hot. My skin prickled under his touch. He leaned in, his forehead pressing against mine. His breath was warm against my lips. I froze. I couldn't run. I couldn't scream. All I could do was clutch my stolen cake, like a pathetic offering. Then he murmured, with terrifying satisfaction. So soft. A cold wave of dread rolled over me. His voice turned smooth, casual, deadly. You have a pretty face. Serve me well, and I'll let you live. He draped his outer robe over my shoulders and swept me into his arms. Behind us, the corpse still lay in the inner chamber. As we stepped out of the gloomy palace, the waiting maids bowed and moved inside without a word. Their practice movements made it obvious. This wasn't the first time they'd cleaned up a body. The head maid's eyes briefly met mine. Her pupils contracted in shock, then she quickly lowered her gaze. My heart twisted with a knot of dread and something I couldn't name. I looked away, but Eric didn't let me. His hand came up, firm and unrelenting, forcing my face toward the scene. He wanted me to watch. Guess how many that makes? He whispered. I held my breath. Now that we were out in the light, I saw it clearly. The dead woman looked like me. Not exactly, but at least 50%. It was like staring into a distorted mirror. Half of me was in Eric's arms. The other half was on the floor, being wrapped up for disposal. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. 98, he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from my brow. You're number 99. You transmigrators really do love this face. My breath hitched. You people? That woman, was she a transmigrated too? When a gift shows up at my door, Eric murmured, it would be rude not to accept. The entire walk back to the apricot courtyard, my heart pounded like a war drum. Every step, every shift in his expression, every rustle of the wind put my nerves on edge. He carried me into the quarters where we once lived. The furniture was just as I remembered it. In this slow-moving world, even 10 years changed nothing. He laid me on the bed. My back hit the mattress. Soft. Familiar. Then he stood above me, untangling the sash of his robes. My eyes flew open. What are you doing? Don't take it off. Don't take it off. His robe slid from his shoulders. Bare chest. Carved abs. V-line. Everything was defined. Obscenely so. I blinked. My gaze dropped lower. It's pink. I remembered reading somewhere that all the colors on a person usually match. Why was that detail coming to mind now? Stupid brain. I gulped, shrinking back, pupils shrinking in panic. Eric plucked the cake pot from my grip with a smirk. Greedy little thing. Can't let go of your food for even a second. It's not like that. I blurted. He opened the lid, dipped a finger into the cream, smudged it on. Come. His voice was low. Eat the whole thing, and I'll let you be. Just for tonight. I had never been so humiliated in my life. I bit my lip. No. He tilted his head. Really? No. His voice was eerily calm, and that calmness terrified me more than his sword ever had. Whether as a child or a man, Eric's rage was never loud. It simmered beneath the surface. Quiet, cold, lethal. Once the plot deviated, he'd embraced his darkness fully. The paragon of virtue became a monster wrapped in imperial robes. Those who crossed him met terrible ends. Death was the kind outcome. I'd seen it. Once, a man had offended him and was mutilated, hands and feet severed, tongue ripped out, thrown into the dungeon to rot, but not to die. I remember lying to the guards once, saying Eric gave me permission to explore the dungeons. I'd gone down,
Seen the man.
his body was crawling with maggots, burrowed deep into infected wounds. They writhed in the candlelight, one dim, flickering flame casting long, sickly shadows. I'd thrown up on the spot. My vomit hit the floor, and the maggots squirmed toward me. I stumbled back, legs giving out as I fled. I tripped on the stairs.
Fell.
Into a warm embrace. I looked up. It was Eric. He was gentle, stroking my hair like nothing was wrong. Ava, what are you doing down here? Who let you in? In the flickering candlelight, he looked like a demon risen from hell. I pointed back, trembling. What did that man do? Eric carried me up the stairs, step by step. The sunlight outside felt cold. His voice was mild. Don't you remember? 3 months ago, that man tried to assault you. Outside the palace. But he didn't even touch me. Eric had arrived in time. The man had already been beaten. That should have been enough. From behind, I heard a hoarse, gurgling moan. His tongue had been cut out. He couldn't even scream. Eric wiped a smudge from the corner of my mouth with his sleeve. Good girl, Ava. Don't come to places like that again. Tears welled in my eyes. When I returned to my world, the system had erased those memories, said they'd interfere with normal life. But seeing Eric again brought them flooding back. In pieces. In pain. Back then, Eric wouldn't have hurt me. I'd been under his protection. He wouldn't have forced me into anything.
But now.
I opened my mouth obediently. The cream was sweet. I had wanted to share it with him once. Now I was the one eating all of it. Tears streamed down my face. Eric lifted my chin. Forced me to meet his eyes. He wiped away my tears. That's a good girl. I squeezed my eyes shut. Refused to look. He paused. Then slowly gathered me into his arms. His voice was soft. Too soft. His lips brushed the corner of my mouth. How old are you now, Ava? My eyes snapped open. You.
He remembered me.
He remembered everything. 18, is it? A chuckle rumbled low in his chest. He pushed up the hem of my nightgown. Our Ava has really grown up. Host, wake up. You can't let him hypno. I woke with a start. A sharp, electronic voice had pierced my mind, vanishing just as suddenly. It felt so fleeting I wondered if I'd imagined it. Who's talking? I rubbed my eyes, disoriented. A hand reached out from behind me and pulled me into a warm embrace. A large palm rested gently on my forehead. A man's voice, soft and familiar, murmured close to my ear. Had a nightmare? My body stiffened. I trembled without meaning to, but his arms didn't let me go. I tilted my head up, dazed, and stared into a face so beautiful it didn't feel real. Who? He smiled faintly, then pinched my cheek and kissed my forehead. Silly Ava, he said with a chuckle. Have you forgotten me again? The fog in my mind began to lift.
Eric.
It was Eric. Relief surged through me. I hugged him back tightly, nuzzling against his chest. I didn't forget. Ava's not silly. Husband can't say that about Ava. It'll make me mad. His eyes sparkled as he stroked my hair. My mistake. Our Ava is the cleverest of all. That's more like it. A sharp pain lanced through my head. Something was trying to reach me. I blinked, looking around the chamber. Just the two of us. Eric noticed my confusion and cupped my face gently. What's wrong? I think someone was talking to me, I muttered. It sounded so real. You must have misheard, he said, and kissed me before I could think further. Maybe I had misheard. It was just a dream. Eric's hands began to wander again, and I let out a soft sound, fingers curling around his collar. It wasn't a holiday, but we'd been married for only a month. Eric was, well, clingy. The court ministers were probably thrilled, hoping the emperor's sudden passion would lead to an heir. Eric's hand rested on my stomach. He whispered, Do you think our baby is in here yet, Ava? My face turned bright red. Maybe. Considering how many times we'd made love, especially in broad daylight, there had to be a baby in there eventually. Maybe. Eric repeated, dragging the word out with that lazy, low tone that made my stomach twist. Then I'll just have to try harder. I bit his shoulder through my tears of frustration. He patted my back like I was a child. Don't cry, don't cry. It'll be over soon. Liar. He'd been saying that for over a month. I turned away with a pout. You're not allowed to touch me tonight. All right, he agreed immediately.
That was too easy.
Then he added, in that case, we won't be resting during the day.
What?
Eric was still Eric. Absolutely wicked. I was the daughter of a general. 3 years ago, during an outing to the countryside, I met him. He was traveling incognito and was ambushed by assassins. I got caught in the chaos. But he had a conscience, I guess. He pulled me along as he fled. We waded through a freezing river and took refuge in a narrow cave. It was the dead of winter. My clothes were soaked. I was on the brink of hypothermia. He held me all night to keep me warm. Looking at him then, I wondered, if we survived, could I ask him to marry me? If not, I'd be forced into the imperial selection. I didn't want that life of harem politics and danger. The emperor was said to be a tyrant, cruel, cold, known for purging the court with blood. I'd be dismembered before I could blink if I said the wrong thing. But my father didn't care. He was determined to send me into the palace. They thought I'd damaged my brain after nearly drowning, that I was forgetful, clumsy, slow. Perfect prey for palace vipers. I had to act. I'd thought if I wasn't a maiden anymore, I wouldn't qualify for the selection. So I reached out, trembling, and slid my hand inside his robe. He caught it gently.
Don't, Ava.
Wait until we're married. Married? What marriage? If he didn't touch me, I'd be dragged into the palace as a sacrificial pawn. But no matter how much I tried that night, he remained unmoved. I was so furious I ignored him the rest of the night, even though we were curled together for warmth. The next morning, a rescue party arrived. Soldiers surrounded us. My father approached and knelt before the man beside me. Your Majesty. My blood froze. Later, he canceled the imperial selection. I was the only one to enter the palace, and I was crowned empress. But being the empress meant bearing the weight of the harem.
Exhausting.
I rubbed my sore waist and back, slumped in Eric's lap, thinking about how I seemed to keep forgetting something important. But the near drowning had taken my memories. The royal physician said memory loss was a side effect. I took medicine daily. Eric fed me another bowl of that bitter, awful concoction, then offered a piece of candied fruit after. I whined. I don't want it anymore. It's disgusting. He didn't flinch.
No.
It's bad for a baby. It's too bitter. I don't want it. He arched a brow. And where is this baby? We do it all day and night. I huffed. There's bound to be one. No more arguments, Eric said coolly. We'll talk after you have a child. I slumped in defeat. Still, I told myself he was doing it for my health. He loved me. Aside from the medicine, he gave me everything I wanted. Treated me like treasure. He wasn't the cruel man everyone said he was. He was so gentle. Well, except in bed. In mid-June, floods ravaged the southern provinces. Eric decided to go in person. At court, his reputation was grim. They called him a tyrant, a butcher in an emperor's robes. Ministers lowered their heads in fear, never daring to meet his eyes. But beyond the palace walls, among the common people, he was revered. 10 years into his reign, the country was peaceful. The poor were fed. The government granaries opened every lean season. The roads were safe, and the harvests came on time. He was ruthless, yes. But that ruthlessness was the blade he used to carve justice into a corrupt court. Anyone tempted to embezzle funds had to ask themselves how many heads they could afford to lose. The floods were severe. He wanted to oversee the relief efforts personally. I had wanted to go with him. I'd never left the capital, never seen the famed rivers and bridges of the south. I wanted to taste new fruits, breathe new air. But just before departure, I had an accident and told him I couldn't travel. Eric was worried. So worried, he nearly postponed the trip. I wrapped my arms around his neck and whispered, "The journey will be too rough.
I'm not going."
His eyes darkened.
Ava.
Be good. Come with me. I shook my head. Seeing his temper rise, I quickly took his hand and placed it gently on my belly. The baby and I will wait for you to come back. He froze.
What?
The royal physician checked my pulse yesterday. I smiled. I'm with child. He spun me in a dizzy circle, laughing in disbelief. He even considered canceling the trip altogether. An empress carrying the first heir. There was precedent for him to remain behind. But I stood on my toes and kissed him.
Go.
Everything is already prepared. The southern cities are waiting. The people need you more than I do. He held me close, brow pressed to mine. I'll be back as soon as I can. I watched from the city wall as his grand entourage left the capital. The line of banners and horses faded slowly into the distance until they were nothing more than dots. Then shadows. Then gone. Silence. Then a voice. Host. Eric as left the detection range. The system. The first time I'd heard it in months. You were smart to lie about the pregnancy. If you'd gone with him, we'd have lost contact forever. I looked down, hand resting over my stomach. I gave a weak smile. Right. The mission has collapsed. I've been stripped of almost all power. I barely have a sliver of energy left. Host, do you want to go back? I should have felt joy. Relief. But all I felt was cold. Maybe it was the bitter medicine. I'd swallowed it obediently at first, but began pouring it out behind Eric's back. On one of those nights, while he slept beside me, I heard the system's voice again. And I learned the truth. From the very first day, Eric had captured me. He hadn't stumbled upon me. He found me, dragged me into this world, erased my memory, and buried me in a false identity. I was hypnotized into believing I was from this world, that he was my husband. The original heroine is dead. The world's core has vanished. It's only a matter of time before it collapses. I blinked into the horizon. But isn't he ruling well? He wasn't the noble monarch from the original script, but the people lived better than I had expected. And a kingdom wasn't its court, it was its people. Did it matter if ministers feared him? He tried to make you the heroine. Replace the general's real daughter with you. And to make room, he had her killed. Now he's using energy stolen from me to keep this world afloat. But it won't last more than a year. I didn't speak. I couldn't. This is a female minus lead world. The story cannot exist without a heroine. Not a male lead. Not even a villain. If the heroine dies, the world ends. Any kind of heroine would do. Vicious, kind, shy, strong, it didn't matter. So long as she lived. Unless you stay. Unless you accept this world, become its core, and replace the one he destroyed. You could be this world's savior. I stared down at the people walking below the palace walls. Some wore silk robes, some coarse linen. Merchants, children, noblemen, street vendors. But each of them was alive. Each of them mattered. And I placed a hand on my stomach. The system couldn't skin my body in detail, not anymore. It didn't know the truth. I hadn't lied to Eric. I really was pregnant. Inside me was his child. I raised my hand to the sunlight, watching the June light pass through my fingers. I remembered when I first arrived. The system had dropped me into the lowest rank of palace maids, nameless, voiceless, discarded in a forgotten wing. Everyone had the right to step on me. And Eric? He wasn't my protector then. Not at first. He watched me suffer. Watched the cold eyes, the slaps, the insults. He let it happen. Wanted it to happen. Because he was rotting in darkness. And he needed someone else to rot beside him. Someone just as broken. He wanted me to crawl into the mud with him. Too bad. I would never give him that satisfaction. He was beyond saving. And I had a life. A real one. I was 18. I had passed the brutal college entrance exams. I'd chosen my dream school. My favorite major. I had a mother and father waiting for me. A future that belonged to me. This world? This twisted dream wasn't my story. None of this was my fault. I was a victim too. I closed my eyes and whispered to the system, I miss my mom and dad. They were waiting for me, and I refused to spend the rest of my life beside a man who had murdered and raped in the name of love. I was back in my room, back on my bed. My game of Goose Guard was still running. The timer at the top of the screen hadn't even finished counting down. 4 minutes and 31 seconds. The system spoke. Pocket World Collapse Countdown for months and 15 days. I ignored it. I didn't want to think about collapsing worlds or tyrant emperors. Not now. I grabbed another pot of cake from my nightstand, taro boba flavor this time. The pearls were perfectly chewy. Spoon in one hand, phone in the other, I shoveled cake into my mouth and furiously tapped at the screen. The timer ran out. Game over. I clicked on an ad to revive. As the annoying jingle played in the background, the system said, Aren't you sad? I paused. Why are you still here? Silence. I waited for the ad to end. I didn't rush it. Eventually, I sighed. I guess I am. A friend I'd known since childhood had developed feelings for me, then raped me, controlled me, killed for me, lied to me, loved me, whatever that means. I rolled over and asked, "Hey, system, can I ask for a favor?" "What is it?" I chewed absently on my spoon as the ad finally ended. "Next time, don't bother redeeming these dark male leads. Just kill them off, right at the start." I gestured vaguely at the screen. Look what happened. The male lead went completely off script. The heroine's dead. The world's collapsing.
Pause.
Damn it, I mistapped. Only 2 tiles left. That stupid apple goose looked exactly like a regular apple. Who designed this game? I'm so mad. The system was quiet for a long time. They are the male leads. I snorted.
Yeah, well.
They're not worth saving. Epilogue. Before the system severed its bond with Ava, it asked if there was anything she wanted. She was out shopping with friends, licking ice cream under the summer sun. She replied casually, "Can you wipe my memories of it?" Then, as if remembering, she added, "Oh, and the baby I had, it didn't come back with me, did it?"
No, no, no.
She let out a long, quiet sigh of relief.
Good.
System 0687 had always wondered why it bonded with her in the first place. Most systems attach themselves to desperate hosts, ambitious girls burning with a desire to fix, to succeed, to win. Ava had no such fire. She'd been forcibly bound, dragged in. She was cheerful, silly even, weak by any practical standard. Always smiling, always snacking, always soft. Hopelessly unsuited for worlds like that. But maybe 0687 thought that's exactly what was needed to redeem a twisted male lead, a cheerful little son. Her first mission had been a stunning success. The male lead, dark and broken, had fallen deeply in love with her. Obsessed. Reformed. After that, 0687 asked, "Do you want to stay?" She answered with a laugh.
No way.
"I want to go home." And so, that male lead fell again. Other transmigrators were sent. One after another, they failed. Until they called her back. This time, 0687 assumed she'd stay. She seemed so obedient under hypnosis. So quiet. So dependent. It thought, maybe this time she loves him too. But in the end, she left. There was no need to send another. No last-ditch heroine. No redemptive arc. The world collapsed quietly in the background, like a fire no one bothered to put out. She never even asked about it. Didn't ask what happened to the kingdom, or the people, or the child she carried. In the final moments, Ava was fretting over a phone game. She never looked back. And in that moment, 0687 understood. That's why it had chosen her. Not because she was kind. Not because she was strong. But because she was cold enough. Cold enough to walk away from a broken world. To choose her own life over someone else's story. And never once question whether she had the right to do so. The world was never meant to be saved.